Thank you.
Deputy Luke Ming Flanagan. Thank you.
One of the biggest feathers in the cap of Europhiles when they tell me the wonderful benefits of being a member of the EU is that farmers in this country got loads of money through the Common Agricultural Policy, when in fact your average ordinary citizen knows who got loads of money. It was the rancher and not the ordinary farmer. Under the old Common Agricultural Policy, the one that's still in place, the top 2,000 farmers got over 150 million. The bottom 52,000 got 125 million. Socialism for the rich. You can't really call it anything else, but ye stand by it. Now, I understand that you're moving in the right direction through an idea called approximation. And there's been a lot of reports in the press about how the small farmer is getting more money. Yes, of course, they're getting more money. If they were to get a cent more, that statement would be correct. And that's pretty much all they're getting. Under this new system, the top 2,000 farmers will get 135 million, while the bottom 52,000 will get in the region of 140 million. Hardly a sea change, hardly a major change. There was a proposal from the EU Agricultural Commissioner, Mr. Keelosh, that under his system, a flattened system, payments to farmers in Mayo would actually increase by 30 million euros. Under the system that you were backing, they will only increase by 4 million euros. On an individual farmer basis, we hear that the small farmer is getting more. How much more? A farmer on 36 euros per hectare will rise to 149. Good news, of course. The farmer on 643 will be reduced to 543. But that doesn't change the situation that we now have, and we will in the future, whereby a small farmer in Mayo will get 390 euros less per hectare than a rich farmer in Kilkenny. Now, on top of that, we have the greening scandal, whereby 1/3 of this payment will go towards environmental factors. We will have a situation where we will not get equal pay for equal work under this system. What I want to know, Taoiseach, is this. Why are you not supporting the small farmer in Mayo, and why is the farmer in Kilkenny being subsidised, and also the Larry Goodmans of the world before the people of your county? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for thanks.
All right, settle down, please. Settle down.
Thanks very much, Deputy Flanagan. I saw your poster on Mallinhead, and that's why I know that you're interested in the small farmers of the West. And thank you for your reference to the small farmers of my native county. You do forget one word about your analysis of the agri sector, and that's the word productivity. And the original intention from many of the Eastern Bloc countries, the former Eastern countries, was to have a flat rate payment across the board. And were that to happen, productivity in this country would drop drastically. You can't equate a 300-acre farm in West Waterford, which has an intensive level of dairy production, with 300 acres in many parts of my own native county in terms of their capacity to produce. You seem to forget that. You also seem to forget that the negotiations, which opened under very difficult circumstances for Ireland's presidency last year, were not deemed to be going to be successful in the first instance. And yet the conclusion was a 12.5 billion investment from 2014 to 2020, where more productive farmers at the higher level had their incomes reduced, and that given to the bottom 50,000 plus farmers, to give them an opportunity to have their incomes raised. You'll also be aware that because of the particular area that you mentioned, a further 100 million was added specifically for the BMW region. Minister Coveney has also introduced a replacement in respect of the environmental scheme, which is not as extensive or as flourishing as one might like to be, but it is a big help to smaller farmers that you mentioned. I don't accept your assertion that we should change the nature of the reform that has taken place. It is about giving an opportunity for the smaller farmers at the lower end to increase their incomes and to have an incentive to be able to get into farming, which has been dealt with on the last two budgets by Minister Noonan to the tax regime, and also to have an understanding that you cannot disincentivise productivity. Deputy Flanagan is aware that when quotas are abolished next year from a European point of view, this country will become the most productive agri-sector country on the planet, and as an essential and core ingredient of that is productivity, because the land won't produce itself unless it's worked and worked well, and unless farming practices are of the highest standard, which I'm very happy to say in Ireland now applies almost universally across the board.
Deputy Flanagan, 1 minute, thank you.
I would say that the small farmers who are productive and have to work twice as hard as the person on the big payment will be kind of insulted by what you said there. Because you can also be on a small payment and be productive. And guess what? If you're getting €500,000, you don't have to try quite as hard to be productive. Under the last round of CAP payments, according to George Lee, you might remember him, he was the one with the brains in your party, he informed us that out of the last CAP money, €4.5 billion of it was spent off-farm. Now, what is going to be done to prevent that happening again? It was meant to support farmers, this money, but the rich farmer has bought himself an apartment in Croatia, or maybe one in Bulgaria, or a second apartment in Dublin, and that money is not going into farming. What I propose would put money in the pockets of the small farmer, and hopefully the next time if you do this, when I visit Castlebar town, I won't have to talk to shopkeeper after shopkeeper who tell me they are on their knees. Not that it's a question of if they close, but when they close.
Thank you.
Taoiseach, I suggest you get out of your bubble, get into reality, go back to your town where you originally got elected, and wake up to the fact that you are crippling them in many ways, and this is one way, because the small farmer spends every last cent locally. The man who's getting this payment is sitting beside Lake Garda, sipping his cocktail. Who do you support, Taoiseach? Them.
Taoiseach.
You talk to me about that. Vineyards get a single family.
Will you don't get excited?
I know it's your intention to be in Lake Garda yourself, and good luck to you with the electorate. They may well decide to send you there for more reason than one, but anyway. I would say this to you, Deputy Flanagan, you're perfectly entitled to raise your case here. The environmental scheme I mentioned, introduced by the Minister, puts €1.45 billion into the pockets, mostly of small farmers and smaller entities, because they've had a difficulty in measuring up here. There is also a special allocation for those small farmers from places that you've forgotten about or maybe never visited. 1.37 million for the farmers on the islands off our coast, and a further 250 million for the rural development scheme under the LEADER programme, which mostly goes to rural areas also. And on top of that, there's the 395 million capital investment for farm buildings under Harvest 2020. You raise a valid point, Deputy Flanagan, about every town in the country in respect of Main Street development. And people these days have a clear choice. And yes, the retail sector has been very heavily hit. And yes, it's important that not only do they offer a range and competitive prices and good service, which they do, but there's the need now to move online as well, so that people can have that choice. The young generation, as you're well aware, may well visit a premises and buy on their mobiles or over the net in so many ways. I don't accept your view at all that the government has not been concerned or delivered in respect of the agri-sector in general, big and small, and during the process of the negotiations at the European presidency, we deliberately restructured the payments here so that the smaller farmer at the lower end of the scale gets the benefit, and that's taken off the bigger farmers at the top end of the scale.
Thank you.
And as I pointed out to you, Deputy Flanagan, you don't want to recognise this, I suppose, that productivity of a high quality product is essential for this economy and is responsible in the main for hundreds of thousands of jobs. That's why Kerry are investing 100 million in Naas. That's why Glanbia are investing very heavily on the Kilkenny-Carlow border. That's why there is movement in respect of land acquisition and land retention and the passing on to younger farmers. Agricultural colleges booked out in respect of young farmers wanting to get into these courses. So they see the future as being very bright in the agri-sector, even if you don't.
Thank you. That completes Leader's questions for today. Before proceeding with